We set sail in January of 1944 for, well, we didn't know where. We learned on our way to the Marianas that Saipan was going to be our objective. Most of us had never heard of it. At this stage, it was a heavily fortified island. The conditions were they had to keep it, we had to have it. And they were just dropping everything on us. And we didn't go too far the first 2 days. Just barely got a foothold on the island. Well, the troops were at the crest of a hill, ready to sweep down into the valley and march across and take that airstrip, but they were being harassed by heavy enemy fire. So somebody came running over to the tank that I was the gunner in. And they say, okay, guys, here's what we want you to do. We want you to find out where those guns are, and we want you to kick them around a little bit if you can. Now, we went down the side of this hill, and when we got to the base of it, we turned right and started going up the reverse slope. And the first thing we saw was the blue flame of a gun firing at us. And we thought, holy mackerel, what have we walked into? The commander hit me on the shoulder and said, Smitty, did you see that? And I said, yeah, I saw it. He said, well, do something about it. So I put a heavy explosive 75 millimeter shell in the midst of that first gun and frankly blew it all to hell. He was happy. And the loader was just keeping that breech full of a shell. Every time he shoved one in, I shoved it out, and I was hitting pretty good. One of the things, yeah, about being in a tank, it gives you a feeling of some security, but when you know there are an equal number, in fact, a greater number of bigger guns firing at you, then you kind of lose that feeling of security. The driver was moving that vehicle around all different ways and keeping us, frankly, a scarce target because of the fact that we were always on the move. And I didn't have to care about whether the tank was going left or the tank was going right. I kept on the target, and I was able to do that and fire then at the same time. I began to think of things that I was going to miss. A certain girl I was going to miss seeing again. A dance that I had attended, and things like that. And I'm firing this weapon all the time, but I'm thinking of these things because I'm pretty sure we're not going to make it. We're being hit on the turret a lot with armor-piercing shells, but they ricochet off. One finally hit us in the tracks and stopped us dead. And then we thought, uh-oh, this is it. A small, some powder which had been on the turret floor caught fire, and the one thing a tanker fears most, of course, is fire. Because once the fire starts, you're sitting on gasoline, you're sitting on ammunition, and it just within seconds then, the whole thing blows you with it. So the commander, I remember his words now, let's get the hell out of here, boys. And up went the hatches. Well, forget about that thing on the bottom, forget about sneaking out underneath. Up went the hatches, and 5 guys came pouring out of that tank. Each of us had a shoulder holster 45. So we came out with 5 .45 caliber pistols to do what we had to do against the remaining Japanese outside there. And then, thank goodness, we heard the roar of another tank. And another one came steaming around, following up the same path that we had followed, and it gave us a breather because it came up beside us and allowed us to gather on one side of it and to start moving back toward our own lines. That was the 17th of June. That was when the first, when objective number one, which was the airstrip, was then overwhelmed. And it was important because B-29s were being manufactured at that time. And that was one of the first strips from which B-29s were going to be flown. We didn't know that, but the planners did. And that's one of the reasons they wanted Saipan, that was going to become one of the first strips used for these B-29s, which were going to be able to fly all the way over the home islands and back again. So later on, somebody got excited and said, "Jesus, what a hell of a job those guys did. Man, they blew the hell out of a number of guns, and we think, what the hell, let's write them up a medal." Frankly, I mean, there are so many guys who have individually done what you call brave things. I mean, really brave, heroic things. This was not a heroic operation. This was something that was called upon because of the training that we'd had, and we did our jobs well. We probably saved a lot of American lives that morning on Saipan because of the fact that we had eliminated so many of these dual-purpose guns. So many things happened after Saipan that I forgot all about what had happened there. When I got that medal that day, the significance of it didn't enter my body. I just thought, this is a bit of show, and okay, so they're giving me a medal, and so I'm happy about that, I guess. I'll put it away and be happy with it. But beyond that, I never thought of it. I honestly lost track of it, frankly. My wife was going through some drawers and came out with a bunch of stuff that I had saved, just Marine Corps stuff, and she said, "These pictures of you, shouldn't we do something with them?" And I said, "Well, what do you want to do with them?" And she said, "Well, let's put them up on a wall or something." So I said, "Oh, okay, if you want to." And that's what happened 50 years later. And that's about it.